Good morning, everybody. Good morning. My name is Elaine. I am a children's librarian with DC Public Library. I have been working in the field of public library youth services for over 15 years throughout. Started my career in Philadelphia at the Free Library, and I've been with DC Public Library now for about 9 years. And I am here to talk to you today about one of my very favorite subjects, which is early literacy development. And if you are joining me today, I'd love to hear from you, although I don't think I can see any comments. So that's unfortunate. So I guess we'll just be hearing from me. So I hope you have a great time today. I hope we have some new parents joining us, or people that work with young children, or people that are expecting children. I'm going to give you I think just some fun tips on practices that you can use to help your children develop the skills that they need to be successful readers and be ready to begin to read when they start school. So we're going to come up with some kind of fun suggestions and ideas for things you can do, books that you might want to select for your young child, how to read, how to talk, how to play, to encourage all the skills they're going to need. All right, so I'm going to start with some science, and I am not a science person. So, if you are also not a science person, I apologize, but this will be fairly quick and painless. What you're looking at here is an illustration of the human cerebral cortex. And you'll see in these illustrations what this cortex looks like over time in children. So what you're seeing here, what we've got going on are neurons, which are passing information through synapses, and you're looking at these synapses. So these are examples of connections that your child is making. So every time they have a new experience, they're making a new connection. And these synapses over time, you'll see get denser and denser in the brain because they've had so many more experiences. And birth through 3 is when the synapses are developing like crazy. So it's really one of the most crucial times in a person's life are those first 3 years. So we want to make sure that we really understand all that we need to be doing to be getting them ready to be successful in school. So what you're looking at here, what you see with a 2-year-old is they've got about twice as many synapses as they'll end up needing later in life. Okay, they've got all these extra connections. So the synaptic density is really crazy. So when you're talking to a 2-year-old, you've got to understand that they are having to sift through all these connections to make meaning of what you're saying. So sometimes it's going to take them a bit longer to respond when you ask them a question. So you want to make sure that you give them time to sift through those connections first before you move on. And also understand that for a 2-year-old, it can be very, very difficult to focus again, because they've got so much going on in their brain. It takes them so much. They have to go through a lot more steps to make meaning of what's happening. So we need to be patient with 2-year-olds. And what you'll see in the adult brain is that, as we go older, we start pruning away these connections that are not repeated, that our brain doesn't deem as important anymore. So we're better able, we have a more pruned cortex so that we can more easily make meaning of what's happening around us. So, okay, that is enough with the science. Let's move on. Okay, so if you really want to know more about this science, you can click on this link and someone can explain it much better than I can. But what we're going to talk about today, though, is early literacy. And early literacy is simply just everything your child needs to know and learn to be able to begin to read when they get to school, to read and write. So we're going to talk about how we can get them ready. Okay. So this is a kind of an interesting exercise I like to do in this workshop. And again, normally my workshops are much more interactive. I wish I could see and hear you all, but so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna show you a sentence here. Okay, I am in the way of this sentence. Okay, And so this, unless you speak Yiddish, and not many people on the planet speak Yiddish, unless you speak Yiddish, you probably have no idea what this means. I don't know what this means. I don't know what these symbols are. I'm maybe not even sure if these are words or this is a sentence. This doesn't look familiar with me. I see something that's familiar, which is an exclamation mark, but it's not where I would think it would be based on my understanding of text and print. So I really have no way of making any meaning of this. Okay, so now what we're going to do is phonetically translate that. In the way again. Okay, so now, now these are characters that I can recognize. Okay, this is an alphabet that I'm familiar with. I know what all of these letters are, and I know the sounds that they're supposed to make. So now I can read this out loud to you. It says, "Gain avec your stinky cats." Now, I see that exclamation mark. Okay. But I have no idea what that means. I can read it, right? Because I understand the alphabet. I understand what sounds these characters form. I understand that these are words. This is a comma here, but I still don't know what it means. I've not heard any of these words before. I have no way of making connection or meaning of these words. So this is something to keep in mind when you're talking to a baby or a young child. Unless they've heard words or seen things repeatedly, it's difficult for them to make meaning of it. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to read this phrase to you again and see if you can figure out what it means. All right, unless you speak Yiddish and you already know. Okay, so, all right, so I'm going to say, "Gehen weg, ihr stinky cats." Gehen weg, ihr stinky cats. Okay, now again, I cannot see your comments, but normally when I do this workshop and I basically act out this phrase, most people get it. Most people say, "Okay, I think that means get out, you smelly cat," or "go away, you stinky cat." And you would be right. Okay, so the translation of this is "go away, you stinky cat." Okay. Get that? So it's another illustration of like how important it is to use body language, to use props and visuals, to point to pictures, point to things you see when you're talking to children, so that they can make meaning and connection of the words that they're hearing. Okay, so. So these are literally, okay, the skills that children need over here, and these are the practices that we recommend that best promote these skills in children. So I'm just going to quickly go through this, and we'll see how many of these skills that we might have needed to make meaning of that statement that we saw in Yiddish. So on here, I see what letters look like, sound like, and mean. So because I did not know when I saw those Hebrew characters, I did not know what those characters stood for or what they sounded like. And so I was unable to read that sentence. And then how sounds form words. Because I did not know the sounds and I wasn't sure which were the words, I wasn't originally able to make meaning of that statement. How books and texts work, yes, because that sentence for me, I'm used to when I read in English, I read from left to right, but that sentence was written from right to left. So even if I had known what those characters stood for, it still might have been very difficult for me to interpret because it would have appeared backwards to me. The meaning of words, even when I was able to get that phonetic translation, I still didn't know what those words meant. So without having heard those words, knowing those words, I wasn't able to understand the statement. And also information and concepts about how the world works. So that's putting it in context. What would it mean to tell somebody to go away? What would it mean to tell a cat that it's smelly? And two more that we didn't cover is how stories are structured and how to tell a story. So that's a skill that your children will develop a little bit later as they start to grow and develop. And books, language, and stories are fun. We want children become much more successful readers, much more successful in school when they have positive associations with books and language and stories. It's not treated as a punishment or thing they need to do, but something that is enjoyable and enjoyed by others around them. So that's another important thing you can do as a parent, is to have a house full of books at all times. You don't need to buy them. You can always get them from the library. And for your child to see you reading and enjoying reading is a very strong motivator for children. And it will give them positive associations later in life. So we're going to go through these. Now that we sort of understand the skills that we're trying to develop, we're going to go through, again, each of these very simple practices. So we call this workshop the STAR workshop, which stands for Sing, Talk, and Read. But actually, there are two other practices that are very important that are sometimes even overlooked, and they just didn't really fit in the acronym. But those are write and play. Okay, and play is one of my favorites and also one of the ones that's sometimes overlooked. So I can't wait till we get to that one. But we are going to start with, I think, reading. Let's try that again. Okay. Oh, right. Sorry. Okay. So here we have, again, because this can't be interactive, I guess this will just be me answering these questions. But I have, you'll see, 1, 2, 3, 4, let's see, seven images here. And each of these images that I picked, I see examples of children developing some of the skills that we talked about. And I usually ask participants to guess or tell me what skills they think these children are developing. In the pictures, there really is no right or wrong answer. But I can tell you what I think I associate with some of these images. So first we see a child over here who is pointing to a stop sign. So he is making a connection between that word stop and the stop sign. And so he's making meaning of that word stop. So he's making an association. So when you're out walking around with your child, it's great. It's really important to narrate your day, to point to things that you see, to tell them what they are, to tell them what they mean. And that is one of the best ways that your children will really develop that vocabulary. This child here, I think, is having lots of fun reading with mom. So she's developing a positive associations with books and reading, as also, you know, as the mom is reading to her and turning the pages of the book and allowing her to handle the book. She's learning how books and text work. Similarly, this baby here who's chewing on this book, a lot of times we dislike when babies are chewing on books, but actually it's a great way for them to develop positive associations with books and to begin to explore the world of print. So this baby is just sort of trying things out, and maybe he's developing a positive association with a book. Maybe he's starting to learn how books work. He learns that the books can open. We have these two little girls here who are actually telling each other a story. So they are practicing that skill of narrating, telling stories, the communication skills. We have this child here who's sharing information and concepts with his friend about how the world works. I'm not sure what he's got there. I don't know if it's a plane or what, but he's explaining that to his friend. So not only does he understand what he's holding, but he can explain it to somebody else. This baby is just having a great time playing with some blocks here. And one of the things actually that you can do to help increase your child's understanding of letters and symbols is to have them practice sorting just about anything. So blocks, colors, anything that they can sort into categories prepares them to be able to identify letters and symbols and better make meaning of those. And this one here, you can see we've got Okay, so they are singing with their baby. I love it. This baby's having a great time. So this baby is exploring sounds and how sounds are broken down and form words. So we are going to now jump into some ideas for how we can develop these skills with our children through these 5 practices. So here we have a baby reading with daddy, I think. And so one of the things you want to do when you're reading is to really make sure, again, that your child has those positive associations. And they're usually better able to focus when they see something that they recognize or that they like. So when you're going through a book with a child, you want to find the things that are most interesting to them and point to them and talk about that. So you want to focus on that. You don't want to force them to read line by line a book that is not interesting to them. You want to find those things that are going to engage them. And they are baby and daddy are pointing out pictures and words as they read together, so they're able to make those connections. And another thing you want to do with children as you read is, again, so they can make those connections, you're going to ask questions, and you want to wait a little bit for them to make a response, even if they're just babbling. Repeating that babble back to that baby will help them develop those language skills that they're going to need. And do I have, yes, okay. All right, so we're going to talk about a couple techniques for reading aloud with children. As far as selecting books for children, we have some really great selection recommendations on the DC Public Library website with our star pages. And not only do we have recommended books, let's see if I can click on that real quick. Broken down by ages, but tells you a lot about how to select those books and what you're going to be looking for here. So with our very youngest infants, they're very young. They can only see in black and white. So black and white books are really great for them. And as they get a little bit older, you still want to kind of try and stay with like strong, bold primary colors that they're really able to engage with. And also, we've got touch and feel books, so those sensory associations are really important for babies, and babies really like things that are familiar to them. So I'll show you a couple examples later of books that I think work really well for that age group. We're going to go back here. Okay, and I'm gonna. These are going to sound like kind of fancy words, but it's really pretty simple. So two types of ways of reading aloud to children that maybe aren't as commonly used, rather than just, again, reading word for word, are picture walk. And that means that you are really, you're not necessarily reading the text line by line. What you're doing is you're going through the book, you're looking at pictures, you're pointing out what you see, and you're talking about what you see. You can talk about that with your child, so you don't have to read a book from front to cover, word for word. And dialogic reading, which is, this is really important, and particularly as children get older and starting to make more meaning of the world, is to stop and ask questions when you're reading, and to allow children to make predictions about what might come next in the story, and make personal connections, because again, that will really help them develop their understanding of language and context. So this is a very simple, very sweet book that I recommend for babies, which I have checked out through the library, electronic versions. So I'm just gonna quickly kind of take you through it and give you some examples of what I'm talking about. So let's see. Okay, oh, I was further on in this book than I meant to be. Okay, so this is called Peekaboo Morning. It's by Rachel Isadora. And it's a really sweet book. And so we see this little baby here, and we could read this line per line. We say, Peekaboo, I see my grandma and grandpa. Peekaboo, I see the moon. Peekaboo, I see my daddy. Okay, so this is a really sweet book and I love it. And there aren't really a lot of words in this It's almost sort of written as a picture walk. But again, to give you an example, you don't necessarily need to read word by word. You could even talk a lot about other things that are going on in the pictures. So you could stop here. Maybe your baby is interested in trees. We can talk about this tree. What color is the tree? The tree, we see that the tree is brown. And I see the grass down here, which is green. I see the sky, which is blue. And look at all those stars. Can we count all those stars? That's a lot of stars to count. So I'll go to one more page here. Oop. Yeah. Okay, and so the only text on here is, I see my daddy and peekaboo I see, but what else do we see? What else do we see here? So we see a stroller, and we see that stroller has wheels on it. Let's see how many wheels are on that stroller. So you could count the wheels on the stroller. You could talk about what colors and shapes you see. You could see, oh, what's here? Daddy's got a ring on his finger. All right, and then baby's peeking out there from behind the wall. So you don't have to stop at what's the text that's in the book. You can really, really increase your child's vocabulary and understanding by really stopping and really absorbing illustrations in a book and talking to them about the context of those illustrations in a way that is fun for them. So, okay. An example of, let's move on to the next page. So an example of dialogical reading would be sort of asking them maybe even some open-ended questions when they get a little bit older. So we peekaboo, I see my cat. Oh, gee, if you had a cat, would you hug it like that? What would you do if you had a cat? Or what kind of pet would you like if you could pick a pet? Or making a prediction. Okay, so we see this baby is looking up at this table that's got a bunch of food on the table. What do you think that baby's gonna do? What would that baby do next? Let's find out. Okay, so I'm gonna move on from that, but those are just examples. Again, oh, did the baby do what we thought? Yep, okay, the baby ate the cookies. Yeah, oh boy, can't see that. Okay, so we're gonna move on here. I really don't want that on my screen. Okay. Okay, so now we're going to talk about talking, which I really believe is the most important practice that we need to be doing. And sometimes parents don't think that they need to talk much to young children because before they've developed those language skills, maybe they can't talk back, or they think, they don't understand what I'm saying. But again, the only way you're ever going to understand the meaning of words and context of words is by hearing them over and over again. So from the time your baby is born, you want to be talking to that baby as much as you possibly can. And that can be a little bit awkward sometimes, but we can give you some ideas for how to do that and not feel so weird. So one of the things we suggest is that as your baby is babbling and making sounds, like you may not know what that baby means by that, but just repeating those sounds back to them. And that's sort of the beginnings of communicating and the baby's understanding that sounds have meaning. Another thing you can do if you're not sure really what to talk about with your baby is to narrate your day. And this is a really great thing to do. So when you put the baby in a stroller, you say, okay, we're going in the stroller. Okay, all right, now the wheels are rolling on the stroller. I'm gonna wheel you all the way to the car. We're getting in the car. Once we get in the car, we're going to drive to the grocery store. And as you're driving, you can point out stoplights, you can point out trees, you can point out buses. So, if you're at a loss, you can always talk to your baby about what you're doing and what's going on with them, and that will help them make meaning of those words. And when you're playing with your child, or you see your child playing, you can add more details rather than just saying you're playing with a ball. You can describe the ball. Okay, that's a blue ball. Okay, you're rolling the ball. The more words they hear, the greater their vocabulary will be. And when they learn to decode print and text, they'll know what those words mean. Just simply knowing what sounds make and being able to read something aloud doesn't mean that you know what the words mean. You have to hear them in context. Okay. Okay, singing. And this is not something, not everybody is comfortable with singing. So that can be a difficult sell. Sometimes for some parents, they don't feel like they sing well. Maybe they don't like singing. But singing is a really great way. I think all of us can probably think back to preschool or childhood and think about how many songs that we learned and how it helped us learn meaning. And there are songs maybe that we still remember. We like to choose songs for young children that have a really strong rhythm and repetition. So you're hearing those words kind of over and over, and that reinforces learning. So for instance, a song a lot of us are familiar with is Wheels on the Bus. So the wheels on the bus go round and round. The wipers on the bus go swish, swish, swish. But you got that strong refrain. Wheels on the bus go round and round, round and round, round and round. The wheels on the bus go round and round, all through the town. So that's a fun one. Kids really like. There's a lot of things they can identify with in that, and it does have that strong rhythm and repetition. So they start to learn what wheels are, what a bus is, what it means to go shh. And it's fun for them. Children, most of you who have been around young children understand that they really enjoy singing. They enjoy being sung to, and it's a great way also of making connections. And also when we sing, it slows down language a little bit. I know if anybody who is familiar with learning a language, sometimes when we're learning language, we can start to decode what people are saying, but it takes our brain longer to do the translation. So when people are talking very quickly, it can be really difficult to understand. Sometimes we have to ask people to please slow down so we can do those translations in our brain and understand what they're saying. So singing is a way of sort of naturally slowing down language, and using pictures or props. Again, we talked about a great way to help your child make those engagements and associations. Like, for instance, when I use this cat here. Okay, writing. And again, sometimes people think that your child doesn't really need to experiment with writing, or writing is a skill that they're going to develop later after they learn to read. But it's never too soon to start your child with developing those writing skills as well. So the beginning of developing writing skills is literally just once they can hold a crayon or something in their hand, allowing them to scribble. The more they can scribble and experiment with the idea that they can put symbols to paper, this is going to prepare them to learn to write later on. And as we talked about before, even playing with blocks and shapes and certainly letters can help children begin to that sorting skills help them begin to break down symbols so that they can understand written text better. One of the things I really love to do is not just read books to children, but to tell stories with children, to encourage them to tell stories. And what you can do too, which is a lot of fun, is to, once you make up stories and you can write them down together. Your child, that's something a lot of children can really enjoy. When they see their stories written down on the page and they can read them back to them, they feel a sense of personal pride and engagement. I like to even sometimes take just a story, or we can take a book like, say, Goldilocks and the Three Bears, and just simply substitute your child's name so that your child is the hero of the story. So that's just another little suggestion from me. Okay. Playing, again, as I mentioned before, playing is often kind of overlooked. People maybe don't understand the importance of play, or maybe they just think playing is something for their child to do with another child. But playing with your child is really important, because you are the one that really has background knowledge and vocabulary to really describe what they're doing and what they're seeing. So as they're playing, you can point to things that they're holding. You can ask them questions about it. Let's see, your child is, what is this child playing with here? Okay. Oh, I think he's playing with maybe a hammer. Okay. So yeah, so that child is interested in playing with hammer. And we can talk about, a hammer is a tool. What can we do with the hammer? Let's experiment with the hammer. Can we hammer on the table? Can we hammer on the chair? You get the idea. But playing is fun for children, and I think all of us can relate to, as learners, when we're learning something new, we're much more likely to learn when it's something that is fun for us and interesting and engaging. So starting with what your child is interested in, starting with playing with your child, is a really great way to help get them ready to read and write later in life. Okay, hold on a second. Okay, whoops. All right, give me 1 second here. Sorry about that. Not a technical problem here. Okay, no. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, so I sort of whizzed through this because I'm not able to see comments, so I was really building a lot more time for questions and interactions, but I'm gonna show you a few more things that you may wanna check out. One here are book recommendations by, let's see, oh, there's the chat. Oh, let's see, okay. All right, I apologize now, I am just seeing the chat. Sorry, this is my first time doing this virtually. I apologize. A strong, Kirsten asked if there was a strong recommended song to encourage hand washing. And actually I have heard a few of those. Some of my colleagues have found. I don't recall the names of them, but one thing you can do too, just if you want to make sure your child is really doing that 20 seconds of hand washing, you can sing. The time that it takes to sing that ABC song is about 20 seconds long. So you can have your child sing the ABC song while they're washing their hands, and when they get to the end, they know that they've washed them for the appropriate amount of time. Okay, again, I apologize that I had not seen the chat prior to this. Okay, so these are some great recommendations. We might have clicked on this before, but this is the STAR page through DC Public Library. I really love it. Explains a lot of what I'm explaining now. One of the programs I have not yet mentioned is Books from Birth. I hope most of you know about this really great program. We have a grant that allows us to purchase a book a month for every single family in DC with a child under 5. It's very easy to sign up, and we send you an age-appropriate book every month in the mail, and that is still going on. So if you have children in that age group and you've not yet signed up for Books from Birth, please do that. You can do that today. It's very, very easy to sign up. So these are, again, some early literacy tips. Here's expecting a baby, birth to 1, 1 to 3. So I think we've looked at birth to 1 before, so we'll look at 1 to 3. Okay. Okay, so okay. So this is when your toddler is starting to develop early language skills. So they are going to start to sort of recognize words and make meanings of words. They have more developed motor skills than your infant. They're going to be moving around. We're going to be encouraging your toddler to do things on your own. And like, as we talked about, sorting things by size and color. And these normally appear in image form, but so these are examples here, Peekaboo What, Dear Zoo, examples for books that you might want to choose for your toddler. Rhyming books are really great. Again, books with really strong rhythm and bright colors. That's okay. Go back here. So there's some great recommendations on that page. I encourage you to take some time with that. Put this away. I just picked out a few of my some fun board books the other day from the library, and so these are examples of great books to read with the very youngest children. And so I love this one. It's called Who, and it's a celebration of babies, and it has different families on each page, and it tells you here's Dada, and here's Baby and Dada. Okay, so that's something most babies will start to recognize their fathers, their mothers, their dog. Here's our doggy here. And then here's a bird, and here's baby and bird. And it also has that repetition and shows all kinds of different families. It has nice bright colors. It's in board book form, so your baby kind of can't destroy it. They can chew on it, whatever. So this is a great book for our youngest children. This one I like is called Baby's First Words, and it's really fun. So again, if you can't get out of the house and out and about and talk about what you're seeing, you can always, you can read books like this where children can see lots of different things going on, and it even prompts you to talk about, we see a butterfly, here we see a ball, here we see a swing, here's Daddy's scarf, here's Daddy's glasses. Here we have children, really young children. One of the things they first start to identify outside of other babies in their family are different animals. So there's a lot of fun animals on this page that you can talk about in nice bright colors. Okay, all right. This. Okay, and one last one here. We've got a nice touch and feel book. Okay, so this is great. This is a really fun sensory one. All right, we've got a kitty cat here, and we're scratching this page. This one, it's kind of hard to see. All right, so this is nice and soft. Your baby can feel that, and you can talk about how soft the kitty's tummy is. And this is something shiny we can scratch. So this is a lot of fun for babies to explore, and lots of opportunities to talk about different senses, colors, etc. Ooh, I like this cardboard here. Okay. And another thing I want to share with you all, before we go, is our calendar. So DC Public Library. So we have programs every day of the week. Sometimes multiple programs per day. There are a lot of virtual programs going on at DC Library. You can also, again, that Peekaboo Morning, which I read, I downloaded as an ebook. You just need the Libby app to do that, and it's very quick. If you have questions about that, you can always go to dclibrary.org and ask to chat with the librarian, and they can walk you through it. But we have a great selection of ebooks for kids right now. We also have a limited number of libraries open. So if you would like a physical book or print book, you can go online and request to have those books sent to your closest open location, and you can go in and pick those up and bring them home. Okay, so this is a link to our schedule. Let's see, another chat. Okay, let's see. Okay. Kirsten, what can parents do if their kids aren't meeting developmental milestones related to reading and writing? Yeah, so as the skills and practices that I'm going over are the most commonly used, and those generally do work if they're being used on a regular basis. But sometimes kids do have challenges that can't necessarily be addressed with those traditional practices, or that they need more reinforcement. So there are One of the, let's see, early stages. Okay, so in Washington, D.C., an organization I really like to recommend is called Early Stages. Let me see if I can find a link for that real quick. And so what they will do is they will do developmental testing. If you contact them, they can assess your child for learning disabilities, and then they have a specialist that often will do home visits and work with your child. But I would say, yes, either if your child is not yet in school and you have questions about that, I would either contact a doctor, but Early Stages is a really great resource. I'll see if I can find that link. Let's see. Yes, Strong Start. So Early Stages and Strong Start, I believe, are well, let's bring up Strong Start. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to put a link to Strong Start in the chat. Ooh. Okay. And yes, most children's librarians at DC Public Library have a Strong Start contact. So if you are at the library and you have concerns, you can talk to a librarian about it. But right here in this link, you'll see there's a hotline for a referral process. Sometimes Strong Start representatives do even visit libraries or attend story times to talk to parents about the work that they do. But they're really valuable, and it's a free service. So I really encourage you, if you have questions about that, to contact them. Okay. Okay. Here is our calendar. So this is DC Library programming calendar. As you can see, there's a lot going on, but we have virtual story times every weekday, Monday through Friday at 10:30 a.m. They last for about 30 minutes. They're a lot of fun. So if you are needing more ideas for books and songs and activities you can do with your children to encourage early literacy development, these are a lot of fun to watch and check out, and you can get some great ideas. It looks like we're having a STEM story time. So there's new programs popping up all the time. There'll be more and more coming down the pike in October, so do keep an eye on our calendar. You can also follow DC Library at DC, let's see, on our Facebook page. I forget the actual link for that, but I think it's dclibrary.org/Facebook. Okay. Okay, so I think I've covered, again, let's see, what age should the free monthly books from DC Public Library end? I feel like these are from Teresa. Yeah, the Books from Birth program, that your child qualifies for a free book every month from birth up through the age of 5. At the age of 5, they age out of the Books from Birth program. How can we introduce to our kids another language, for example, Spanish? So yeah, so if you're wanting your child, which is great, obviously the more languages your child is learning and being exposed to at a young age, the better their language skills will become even overall. And it's also easier for them to learn new languages when they're introduced to them very early on. So if for example, you would want to introduce your child to Spanish, and you would do that in much the same way that I'm talking about in general early literacy development. So one thing, singing songs, learning songs and singing songs to your child in Spanish. DC Library has a very large collection of bilingual books, so that if you are not comfortable with the language you're introducing your child to, you can see the text written in both English and Spanish. Obviously, introducing them to or having them be around people that are native Spanish speakers, the more they are hearing that language in conversation and context, the more they will be able to make meaning of those words. Okay. Is it recommended for kids to learn? Is it recommended for kids to learn through tablets or phones, and for how long should we be exposed to these devices? So we're learning more and more about that. We're learning more and more about sort of screen time for young children, I think, every year as time goes on. So what I will tell you is that if your child gets, your child that's under 2, is not going to, there's not a lot of learning occurring in the brain when they're in front of a screen or in front of a tablet. So they might be sort of mesmerized by, the glow or something they're seeing, but they're not making any connections. One thing we have found is, though, if you are sitting with your child and sitting with a tablet and you are helping them, you are talking with them, asking questions, that they may be able to make those connections, but they really need you to be present in making those connections for them, because they won't learn just from the video. That said, I think a lot of parents are overly concerned about, what would happen if their young child is exposed to screen time. It won't hurt them. It won't hurt them if you want to stick them in front of a tablet for a little bit, just to give yourself a break. But just understand that they're not going to actually be learning from those devices until they're 2 or over. They are going to be making those connections primarily through you or another person. And again, tools to help parents to identify if the child has learning delays. I did post a link to the Strong Start program, which is the early intervention program. So that, I would say, they are really the experts. They are really the experts on that. So I would get in touch with Strong Start or take a look at their website to see what they recommend to identify whether a child might have a learning delay or not. And again, they will do an assessment for free too if there are concerns about that. Okay. All right, well, let's see. I don't know if there's any other questions here. Again, thank you for anyone watching. Thank you for bearing with me through this. This was my very first time doing this workshop in a virtual format. And there's kind of a lot going on here. So hopefully next time we present this in a virtual format, we'll have this down a little bit more smoothly. But this is still fun. It's always fun for me to cover this content. It's always fun for me to connect with parents and caregivers. Thank you so much. Let's see. I'll wait a second or two to see if there are any other questions. But we may wrap up in just a minute. And again, I apologize for some distractions with my computer. Let's see. Okay. Any other programs if your child is too old for a Strong Start? Oh, that's a good question too. And I do get that sometimes. Again, because they are really the experts in that, I would contact Strong Start and ask what those programs are. Because even if they can't provide that service, they should be able to refer you to sort of the best service for a child of that age. Also, again, if your child is in school, I always recommend, talking to teachers or counselors at the school, because they should theoretically be able to help with that type of assessment and or give you referrals to an appropriate service that would be able to make that kind of assessment. But I do encourage parents, if you have any concerns about that, don't hesitate to reach out and get those referrals, because learning delays definitely can be addressed in most cases, but it's best when we catch them early on. So if you have concerns about that, I would say yes, go ahead and contact Strong Start. Or contact your child's school and ask which are the best services to identify if your child might have a delay. Okay. Any other questions here? This was fun. This was weird. again, thank you so much for joining me today. If you have any other follow-up questions, either for me or for DC Library, etc., I'm gonna put I'll put my contact info in the chat, but and I can also try and refer you to appropriate person to answer your question if it's not something that I am equipped to answer. What is it? It's not even my email address. Okay. All right. Yeah. So this is my email address right here. So feel free to contact me if you have further questions. Thank you for joining us for the summit today, and have a great rest of your day, everybody.